Brenda Braxton said we need some spooky music for this Sunrise Extra. How about this, Brenda? I can add some words to the song to make it spooky. You ready?
Do it.
Here it comes. Keep it up, Ryan. Yeah, it's Halloween time now. Get it. There you go.
Your singing is spooky.
All right, now the real scary music. Thank you, Director Brian Matthews, for that. We are talking all things scary and spooky 4 days from Halloween here on Sunrise Extra, because on Sunrise, the TV show, we talked about a few haunted places around Portland. We also featured the Elsinore Theater down in Salem, which is said to be haunted as well. And we have a special guest. That is not a ghost in that fourth box this morning. That is a special guest who is going to share her own personal ghost story with us. This is the real deal. And Brenda, this was a guest that you brought to our attention yesterday in our post-show meeting.
Yes, her name is Wendie Willis, and I met her several years ago. She wrote that book. She lives up in Washington. It's called Enlightened Within, a true story about a family that lived in a haunted house. Ooh,
and that family is hers, right?
Yeah.
That family.
So Wendie, I want to know the story. Let's start. How did you first know? What did you first notice when you moved in?
Well, it didn't start right away. There was just a couple of things, and I've kind of always been a little sensitive to those things. And so there was a little things here and there that I just kind of ignored. But probably after 2 years living in the house, our youngest turned 2, and he was being bothered at night, and which wasn't like him. He normally would sleep through the night just fine, and then he started waking up in the night, and I went into his room to kind of check out and see what was going on, and he pointed to the corner of the room and said, "Dark man."
Oh.
And of course, I looked in the corner. I didn't see anything right away, so I thought, okay, I'll sleep in here with him and see how it goes. Well, he went to bed, or he went to sleep right away, where I was woken up. I started to go to sleep, and then this dark figure came over me and just kind of got right in my face and yelled, "Get out."
I just got chills when I think about that. That is just so creepy. When I think of a haunted house, though, Wendie, I think of an old, spooky, turn-of-the-century mansion of some sort. But basically, your house was like what? Barely like 5 years old.
Like new construction, right?
It was new construction. It was only a year old.
So what the heck
I think
was
that's
going
what kind of, I believe it was the land, because I searched high and low in the house. I checked to see if we had anything that might be causing it. We prayed over the house, and that's the conclusion that we came to, which would explain a lot of the animals that died around the house.
What do you mean?
What
do you mean?
Well, you have your normal things where birds hit the windows and, seasonal things, but we had a lot of dead birds around our house. There was a dead cat, a rabbit, just different things like that would happen. It was unusual, especially in the suburbs.
What town in Washington was this?
Camas.
In Camas. Okay, gotcha.
We can show the book cover again, and you shared that really is a creepy, scary story about what you experienced in your son's bedroom. Frightened Within is the name of Wendie's book, and obviously,
Enlightened Within.
I'm sorry, thank you. Enlightened Within.
You're frightened.
It's right in front of my face.
It was
Enlightened Within. Obviously, you needed more than just one story in your son's bedroom to create a whole book. I do know that there was a time when your entire family was sleeping together in one bedroom. That's how bad things got. And I'm thinking, what could lead to that? Because it would take a lot for me to share my bed with my wife and both my boys.
Yeah.
I would say it was a lot of, like each child probably has a memory of things that happened to them, whether it was bad dreams. It was always the whenever it did happen, it was the same time every night at 2:20. I can tell you the story about my husband and I, where we were laying in bed and then all of a sudden our bed started shaking.
Like how bad?
You know, enough to wake us up, and to the point where you literally could feel the fingers going down your back through the mattress.
That's
Yeah.
nuts.
And then we have a ceiling fan, and when I looked up after that, the little pull string was waving back and forth.
Oh, weird.
So Director Brian is in my ear, and he's like, he wants to know more about the fingers. Like, so are you laying on your back and you feel somebody like from the mattress, or can you describe a little more about that?
Yes. I was laying there in bed, and at first I was like, "Did you feel that?" to my husband, and he's like, "Yes." You literally felt like somebody took their hand and like you could feel it through the mattress going down your back.
Wow.
I would have been booking a hotel room at that point.
So,
you
I mean,
guys
if you
did
had
not
little
move
kids
out right away.
Yeah. Were they just terrified, or did it just become part of life? I mean, I guess if you're sleeping in one room, it's not something fun.
Well, at first it would just happen here and there, wasn't all the time. And then near the end, when we were getting ready to sell and leave, is when things started picking up a little bit more, and that's why they slept in our room. So it would be one night, one person, you know, it would alternate and take turns with everybody.
So do you do you like keep this under wraps to any potential buyers? Do you not tell the realtor just to not like mess up with anything, or what was kind of your approach?
I kind of wanted to say something because I didn't want anybody else to have to go through that, but we needed to get out of the house. And since it was the property, there was no way we could do anything. So, I mean, we did pray over the house and you know, have it blessed and things like that.
So you did bring in like a medium or somebody? How did that work?
No, we did bring in church members that prayed over the house. But I think sometimes even when you do that, if there's something that bad on the property, it just stays there. Because even when we brought the realtor in, that's another story where she came by to take photos, and as she's a seasoned realtor, so she's been through a lot of houses. And as she was walking up the stairs, she said, "You know, I've been selling property for a long time, and I just don't have a really good feeling about this." And I just kind of looked at her and I said, "Well, you have no idea."
That's
so she
just
tried
the
to
half
take
of it.
Can I clarify, though? You brought the church in to bless the house. The realtor knows it's haunted. She has her experience. But you did not tell the buyer.
No, we didn't tell the buyer.
Have you heard any stories since from the buyer? Like, hey, I got a question for you.
How's it been going there lately?
Goodness.
They didn't reach out to you since then and ask you if maybe they started experiencing spooky things and wanted to confirm whether you ever did. That never happened?
Well, I can tell you from the couple that we purchased the home from, I know they experienced some things, and they only lived there for a year.
Okay.
We lived there for 4 years, but we didn't experience the intensity of it, like I said, until the tail end. The next buyer moved out after a year.
Really?
That's crazy. So you told me when we were talking on the phone before this interview that you would see things, not just kind of dark figures, but kind of playing off that Indian burial ground situation, if that was what was going on. Tell me about the girl that you would see in your house.
Okay, so that's the kids were outside playing, and I was doing laundry, and I walked by the laundry room, and I saw a little girl with long, dark, black hair, which is just like my daughter, and she had a little white dress on, and she was looking out the window in the laundry room. And I just briefly went by, and I thought, I thought my daughter was outside playing. So I went downstairs, and my daughter was downstairs getting a drink of water.
Like you see her
And,
like the condition of a real person, or is it like an apparition? I mean, how clearly did you see her?
With this particular incident, it was pretty clear.
Wow.
And like I said, briefly walking by the room, so it's not like I was just standing there. So it was clear enough where I thought my daughter was standing by the window.
Did you ever do any property record searches or any kind of digging historically on that land to see, what house or buildings were there before?
Yes. Up on the top of Pern Hill is old farmland, and they call it Pern Hill because there's fern trees that used to grow up here. Mm-hmm. So there's like cow farms and things like that, but if you dig it back a little bit more, there is a lot of Indian burial ground all through the Columbia River area. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing I could think of. Not that Indians would do something like that, but there was some kind of ritual that took place on the property. That's what I believe.
I also thought it was interesting because the woman that you bought the house from, you were over there initially when you were getting a home inspection done and everybody was on the property, and some strange stuff happened then, which maybe should have been a little bit of a tip-off. But can you describe that story?
Yes. So, in hindsight, my current husband and I, we were excited to buy a home, get our family situated. So I was not allowing myself to be aware of what was going on. We were just kind of, anxious to get things tied together. But when we did go to the house for the inspection, the mom was really stressed out. And of course, I thought it was because, she's trying to sell her house. So you don't want any major things that have to be repaired. But what happened was her youngest son reached into their freezer and pulled out a frozen mouse because they have a pet snake. And we thought he was going to, my boys were excited because they thought he was going to feed the snake and they wanted to watch it. But he actually took the mouse and was playing with it on the living room floor.
Oh my goodness.
So
Isn't that cool? But you think that this spirit was actually kind of targeting the youngest for the seller, and this spirit, you say, also started with your youngest boy.
Exactly. Yeah. So
it's a bully ghost.
Clearly.
I will admit, I've always been pretty skeptical when it comes to ghost stories. I love scary movies. If we could look it up, I think Poltergeist came out in 1982, which means I was 8 years old, and I saw that in the theater. I remember that very clearly, being in the theater at that age, watching that movie. I've always been pretty skeptical. I had what I can only describe as a ghost-like experience in my house 2 weeks ago. I'll share that in a moment. And I said I would share that during our show today, so I have to get to that at some point. We also have viewers chiming in, some believing, some not believing. Is it frustrating at all because your stories, your individual stories regarding this haunted house of yours, very clearly spelled out? And it's never a question of I think I saw this, I felt like it may have been this. It's this is what I saw. Does it frustrate you when there are people who say, I don't believe you?
No, because I think whoever I'm supposed to reach to either help, because the point of writing the book was to help others who may be going through something like this. So they're either going to be open to this or not. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it is a real realm. And a good example of the gift I feel that God gave me, this insight into the spiritual realm to help others, is kind of if you ever seen the movie The Conjuring. Mm-mm. Did you guys ever see that?
I know the movie. I never saw the movie.
Me either.
Okay. Well, the wife in there, her gift is very similar to mine, and she and her husband kind of do that. They do investigations and they help people that have, situations like this and they don't know what to do. She can see things and kind of knows where they're coming from and goes from there.
So since you guys have moved out, have you had any other experiences anywhere you visited or gone?
No, it was just
so
there.
It really was that house. Wow.
Thank goodness. Oh, so
yeah.
Wendie, when we're looking at our phones, we're reading some of the comments on the stream with people weighing in. This is a kind of a crazy one. Angela Barks-Draz says, my dad said he lived in a haunted house in Seattle when I was a baby. He knew because my mobile above the crib would spin and there were no windows or draft. In the attic, this is the part that got me, there was a shackle anchored to the floor and children's books.
No. Oh my gosh.
That is so creepy.
Gosh.
Drew, I want to hear your story.
I'm going to do that for you right now. After referencing these two comments. One, someone asking on the stream, where is this house? Again, the house you lived in was in Camas, up on Prune Hill there, right?
Prune Hill?
Yep, the Prune Hill neighborhood. Right. Number two, Rodney chimes in this morning, says, I know someone that does not believe in ghosts. He laughed at me when I told him that I grew up in a haunted house. And then Rodney says, I wish that person would experience this. So, you know, the people who have gone through it, you know, it's like, hey, I don't know what you want me to tell you. This is what happened to me. Believe it or not, it's the real deal. So here's what happened to me in my house 2 weeks ago. I'm in the shower. It's a Sunday afternoon. I mean, broad daylight. It's 2 Sundays ago. The Eagles are on TV. The football game's on in my bedroom. I'm in the shower. You know, it's like a small shower in our master bathroom. And I'm supposed to turn the fan on, according to my wife, every time I get in there so that, you know, it helps with like the steam and all that, right? So I always remember to do that in the morning before I come to work. And I think I use it in the morning more like as a sound deafener.
Oh, right. White noise.
Yeah, white noise so that I'm not waking everybody up. Right. But sometimes I forget to do it when I'm showering during the day. Anyways, I'm in the shower. I do turn it on. And I'm going about my business. And I'm kind of in deep thought. And I see my wife kind of step into the bathroom and, you know, she's kind of like right into the shower area. And I know she's checking on, like, did he turn the fan on? Because that's what she'll do. She'll come in and she'll like be quick and say, you didn't turn the fan on. I've heard that literally 100 times. You didn't turn the fan on. So I got it on. This time I'm like, I'm golden, right? She comes in, looks at it, leaves. And I'm like, no words were exchanged. So I wrap up the shower. I step out. She's in the bedroom now with my son. And I walk out in my towel, if you want to continue this picture in your head. And I said, hey, turn the fan on. And she just looked up and she's like, great. And kind of looked away like, and I'm like, and then I thought there was going to be more there, right?
Praise.
Yeah,
you wanted
I wanted praise. So I go, I saw you come in and check the fan. And she's like, what are you talking about? I go, I saw you come into the bathroom and look. I guess I figured you were looking to see if the fan was on. And I go, what were you doing in there? She goes, I didn't go into the bathroom at all. When?
I'm like, just saw like a body shape or something? Or you saw her?
It wasn't like, I saw, well, she says it wasn't her, right? But it wasn't like I saw a shadow, a glimpse, something passing by. I mean, I'm in the shower, I'm doing my thing, and there's her, but the glass is kind of like
wet and
wet. Well, I don't know. It's not really like faded, but what's the word I'm looking for? You know, so you can't see a naked body. Frosted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Frosted. So you can't see me in the nude. But so I'm like seeing. I see her. I see a woman. I mean, long hair. Her height. Like a person is in there looking and then stepping out and walking away. Like I see the whole thing.
Does she play practical jokes?
No. I mean,
does she owe one for you?
Nope.
Is she?
Why would she keep this going? I told her. So I tell the story and she's completely freaked out.
She was.
Yes.
Are you freaked out, or are you just like, oh, she's? Or, I mean,
well,
I saw a shadow.
I just kind of like, you know, what, and I told him, I said to myself, what could that have been? You know, what am I seeing there? What's going on in my head? How many cups of coffee did I have today? I mean, there has to be some explanation, but it wasn't like, oh, I saw something, because you've had that experience, right? You kind of walk past the room, you think you see something, you go back, and it's not there.
Yeah.
This was, I'm standing there, I see someone come in, look at what I think is the fan to see if it's turned on, and then walk out. Like, it wasn't a moment, it was a few seconds.
So Wendie, when you talk to other people and in your experience, I mean, what do you think are these ghosts or apparitions? Are they just trapped in between worlds? Are they trying to convey something to you? Like, what do you think is going on?
I think it depends on what the situation is. Like, obviously, the house that we were in, those were evil spirits. You know, they were demons that were put there through some kind of activity, whether it was ritual sacrifice on the ground or whatever it may be. Because anytime you have something like that, it is left behind. That energy is left behind. So I think. If you have, and then, you know, another milder example could be, you know, maybe a couple that argues all the time and there's always anger there. That kind of energy can be left behind in a house. So it just could be little things like that, or something that people bring in. Sometimes you don't realize there's things that you bring in.
So tell me about this time of year, because for I think almost everybody, Halloween is a favorite holiday. It's fun to get scared. But what do you feel? If you're sensitive, is there more than meets the eye?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, this stuff is real. There's a reason why there's Halloween. This time of the year, for a good 2 to 3 weeks, I do feel the heavy activity. It's something that goes on throughout the year, I think, but it's definitely heavy this time of the year, because when Halloween's over, I just feel a load off my shoulders has been lifted.
I'm glad you have the gift, because I'm a big old chicken.
You don't want the gift.
I don't want the gift.
We're hearing from Sheila Speck as well this morning. She's one of our regular viewers on Sunrise Extra. Good morning, Sheila. She says after her dad died, he appeared at the foot of her bed to tell her it's okay now. And she says she has felt better since that happened.
Wow. That feels comforting. I wouldn't mind that kind of visitation.
How about this one real quick? I know we're running out of time, but we're getting them fast and furiously now. Other ghost stories. This one from Andrea Gale. She says she lived in a haunted house in Canby. Every day the furnace would turn off, and when I would go into the cellar, it would turn back on when I would get like 2 inches away from it. So she's approaching it to turn it back on herself, and then she gets really close and it turns back on. She says every one of my guests who were previously skeptical of ghosts became believers because he made himself known, this ghost.
Wow. That's interesting. I've heard, I'm not sure how true it is, but I've heard people who are also sensitive to this type of thing say that spirits use like electricity and that kind of a conduit to make their presence known.
I like Susan Decker's comment. She says her young daughter used to talk, laugh, have fights with someone in her room. They heard it over the baby monitor. And when they moved out of the house, the little girl said, "Oh, the boy will be sad. He likes looking out the window at the garden."
I totally
If your little child,
goosebumps.
talks about that, I don't know. My daughter was at school yesterday and was like, "Oh, on our trip, I broke my sunglasses." And the teacher was telling me this story. I was like, "No, she didn't. Nothing of the sort happened." And so it's just like, little kids kind of make up stories. But boy, that is very specific, Susan. That's cool.
I mean, there are such things as imaginary friends as well, right? I mean, kids do have those. Those are real things. So my first inclination would be my child has an imaginary friend. But hey, who knows?
Keep telling yourself that.
Have your kids had any, Wendie, have your kids had any more experiences, or what's their, kind of thoughts looking back on it now?
I think they do vaguely remember the things that happened there. I mean, it hasn't taken over or anything like that. Right. I would say they haven't had any since living in that house either, which is good. But they're all supportive, and they were supportive of the book, and they do believe in it.
So the house on the cover of your book, that is the actual house that you guys lived in?
Is that your house?
No, I use that because it's
a good grabber.
That it would be a house. Yeah, but it wasn't. It was a nice modern house that was only a year old.
Wow, interesting.
Wendie,
it was very deceiving.
With all your experiences with ghosts, and getting back to my own story, the ghost that came into my bathroom and basically saw me while I was showering.
The fan was on.
That ghost clearly was just there to check out my body, right? That's what that is?
Poor Wendie Willis on the spot. Wendie, we totally appreciate you coming on to share your story. Let's say the book one more time. It's called Enlightened Within, a true story about a family that lived in a haunted house. I'm so glad that things have settled down, but this is such a good topic for this time of year.
Wendie, we do appreciate you joining us this morning. You added a lot to the program.
Thank you, Wendie. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.